Hello, everybody. Brad Stevens here. Looking forward to my mentor session with everyone. This is becoming very quickly to be one of my favorite parts of the month. It's amazing when I start unpacking my brain and get a chance to leverage the 20 years of experience I've had as an entrepreneur to answer a lot of your questions. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and it gets me to revisit a lot of experience I've had in the past. So, for those that don't know, Brad Stevens, been CEO of Outsourced Access. We have an offshore virtual assistant firm that we just hit 170 staff. We're adding about 15 to 20 per month and providing virtual assistants, embedded and trained managed service to small business and entrepreneurs all over the world. And over the years, I've had product-based businesses, service-based businesses, and absolutely love this company that we currently have now. And I get a chance to do a lot of speaking on this. I've spoken to 50, 60 entrepreneur organizations globally. Just actually did Malaysia a couple of weeks ago, which was pretty exciting. So I get a chance to speak and interact with tons of entrepreneurs, and with our clients get to deal with a lot of small businesses and medium businesses and their challenges and what they're dealing with, and really kind of help them overcome them. And so I look forward to leveraging that experience and my experience as an entrepreneur in building and growing a number of companies in the past, and my experiences and successes and failures in that process to hopefully help you avoid some of those challenges moving ahead. So I will jump right in here and get to the first question. So the name of the submitter is Adam Drake. Question he asked, mindset question: how can I use my team or outsourced team to become more productive in my business and allow me to focus on working on the business? The business description and background: I manage a team of financial advisors and I'm recruiting more advisors. I own the company. On a daily basis, I'm tweaking my systems, which is adding up to big improvement over time. Also, at any given moment, I'm working on game changer deals, acquisitions, hires, partnerships, of which I may land a few a year. The regular new business, doubles and triples, continues to flow in, but I obviously want more. I need to understand better how I can better utilize team members to accomplish more. Thanks. And the elevator pitch: my company, Highland Investment Advisors, provides a turnkey asset management program helping independent financial advisors eliminate back office paperwork, headaches, and grow fee-based practices. We're built by advisors for advisors to empower reps to be their client CIO. So, Adam, the mindset's great. That is, I mean, at least the direction you're wanting to head is where you have to go to scale. I was just speaking with another young entrepreneur from Canada a moment ago that just launched their business a year and a half ago, actually focusing on the travel agent niche. And we were talking about how it just starts with scale is based on system and process, and getting all those infrastructure elements in place that allows you to scale and grow. And that's the difference between the entrepreneur that stays in the hamster wheel all the time and never really makes full progress and hits a ceiling, which everybody has a growth ceiling. They hit a constraint point of cash, people, systems, and processes and never get beyond it, versus those that have the right kind of mindset and commitment to get on the other side. So I would say first, from a mindset standpoint, is something I recommend in past calls, and I'll share. I got a bunch of free templates and tools. I'll drop in a link to it. Is really, when you're asking about being more productive, is I always tell people to ask two questions. One, what are things that you or your staff are doing that aren't the best use of your time, and how many hours per month are you spending on those tasks? And then in another bucket, or what are the things that you want to do, that you want to be getting to, that you're not able to due to limitations of time, money, and resources? And just do a brain dump of that. I recommend for you and your key staff to do a brain dump, spend a couple hours doing it, get together, allocate a couple hours, and have a conversation. And you'll be amazed at what comes out of that exercise. And you really kind of get out all on the table. What are things that are maybe duplications of things that aren't productive? Before you outsource or even further delegate a thing, just use that to kind of get stuff out on the table. And it's amazing what that uncovers in terms of inefficiencies in the business a lot of times. I've recommended, probably thousands of companies at this point go through that process. It's amazing what they turn out. And then once you kind of take that list and look at it and see which are the buckets that things can kind of fall into, one of the couple of rules that I use is one is called an 85% rule, which is, as entrepreneurs, we want everything to be exactly what we want, how we want it all the time, right? And there's certain aspects of businesses that have to be 100% there. But if I can get something 85% of the way there, or 90%, and it actually can get out the door versus me being constraint point, like writing blogs, for example, getting blogs and content and things out the door. I'm a content writer. Is it still exactly what I would write if I were writing it word for word? No. but is it 85% of what I would do? And we get 4, 5, 6 of them out a month and they start generating traffic based on keywords and leads for our business? Yes. So part of it is a lot of people have a trouble with letting go of things is they still want it to be absolutely perfect in the process. So apply that kind of mentality a bit. And the title of my podcast that I have called Automate and Delegate, highly recommend checking that out. If you go to automatedelegate.com, you can check it out. And I've got some people that I interviewed on this exact topic, right? Is how do you uncover and find things that you can just either automate or delegate, automate and delegate with different technology tools or processes. And that's the other thing I would say when you say, how can I use my team to be more productive, is you got to be super process driven. I saw in your kind of description what your challenges are. It's not fun. It's not exciting. But it's what separates the good from the great when entrepreneurs is being to document processes. Because if you're going to ultimately delegate and outsource things, you've got to get those processes documented. I know Trainual is a product that is heavily used within the AO group, and love that product. A lot of our clients use it. That kind of helps in that process. Or even just a starting point can be a Google Doc, and using a screencasting tool, which I've always mentioned is Screencast-O-Matic or Loom, that allows you to just record your screen and record processes of how to do certain things. So there's a couple of just steps in the process I think that you've got to commit to, and get your whole team on board about it as well. When you talk about getting your team more productive, is they've got to figure out where can they get to their highest and best use of time. Because a lot of people just stay in that same hamster wheel. And so if you're in the hamster wheel and your staff are, you're never going to make that progress. So they've got to make the mindset shift to make that transition. And make sure you have some kind of a goal development and execution program in place in your business. If you don't have something where you're doing 90-day goals and you're having weekly meetings around performance and executing against those goals, that's also a key element to making a commitment to this delegation. We use a model called 4 Disciplines of Execution, kind of blended with EOS, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And I'll share the links and templates. But a lot of times people have desires to do the stuff you're talking about, but it never gets done because there's not a framework, a goal developed, a step to process, and a weekly accountability to making that move forward. So if you really want to make this happen, make it a commitment to the organization. Define, a SMART goal 90 days from now, what you want to accomplish, and really kind of move the needle. And I always try to reference kind of a book. I'm always going to continue to revisit the E-Myth on this one for those of you that maybe have read it a long time ago, but just it's a great one to revisit about stepping out and working on the business, not being the technician. I recommended recently the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership from John Maxwell, but another one I'd recommend, particularly if you're in a growth mindset, which it sounds like you are, is the 15 Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. Is the one I'm actually listening to right now. And I'm bringing my whole team along in that whole journey. And we're doing just 1 or 2 laws at a time. And sharing with them. Actually just started sharing to our whole team to kind of dive into as well. So a couple of things there related to that effort. Next is Joe Nugent. Question: when do I know that is the time to start delegating and hiring people in my new business? And what programs and software do you use to automate emails and scheduling? Business description: I own a home inspection and a home watch company. So Joe, First, in terms of when is it time, I would ask, it sounds like you already have a business that's kind of maybe underway and progressing, but first of all, before you're going to hire anybody or invest in other people, is you got to make sure you have a solid, viable, predictable product with some kind of somewhat predictable kind of outcomes. And that's a lot of times where the entrepreneur is kind of figuring things out initially and determining what's the best process in the model, because then you can introduce other people into that process to accelerate things. So I always encourage making sure to test it and validate yourself. Even if it's a sales process, like how to use like home inspections. I was working with somebody. We actually have a couple people in the home services industry, and one of those is creating partnerships for referrals, which is a huge element of that, right? Obviously real estate agents, other people that are in that space, and do an automated LinkedIn outreach connection. And so I was telling one company as far as define that process, define the content, what's the messaging you want to do kind of on that outreach. And as soon as you kind of test it a little bit and it's viable, then boom, bring somebody in because it has a predictable kind of outcome. When you're looking too at cost of delegating and hiring someone, is so many entrepreneurs just always think about things in terms of expense, right? They look at just what's the cost structure, not as an investment. And I encourage every entrepreneur to look at everything as an investment. If it's not an investment, then you need to revisit if you should be engaging in. So if you're going to invest in hiring someone to outsource or do work, for example, like LinkedIn. Like that's one thing we do for a lot of our clients is, I mean, actually I have a full-time VA pretty much that lives in my LinkedIn account, does nothing but lead generation, connecting with people, posting content to blogs and content, driving them back to our site so they can then get our opt-in on our opt-in form and then get into our nurture sequence. But that's one of those things that, if you were to pay for someone to do that, what's the average client worth to you? What's an average home inspection, service worth or home watch company? And it's not that complicated, but it's amazing to me how many people don't think about it. They're like, oh, VA is going to cost me X amount, per month. Is it worth it or not? Well, let's look at how many additional home inspection deals they would have to get you in order to break even. And then what everyone beyond that is dropping, to the bottom line. It's kind of simple math, but it's amazing to me how many entrepreneurs don't think about that process. So do you have something that's somewhat repeatable and predictable so you're not just throwing money at somebody to do a process that you haven't got refined? And then secondly, once you're there, what's the value of your product? What's the value? And sometimes depending on cash flow, some entrepreneurs, they can't sustain. They got to have something pay back immediately in the first, 30 days of engaging with them. But some people, maybe say the annual value of a client is, $4,000 or $5,000. And it may cost $500 in terms of a resource to help gain that client. But at the end of the year, they've got a substantial ROI. So just a way to kind of think about it. And on this as well, I'd recommend, and you asked what programs and software to use to automate emails and scheduling. So a couple things I'll share. I'm a huge fan of tech tools, and as part of my Automate and Delegate, it's about people and tech tools, and it's virtual assistants, outsourcing, and easy tech tools. We use Infusionsoft as the marketing automation platform that we use. They rebranded to Keep, K-E-A-P is kind of their new brand. They've been out for a long time, and I still don't know why they rebranded, but love the product. It's not the cheapest out there, but it's a fully integrated marketing automation, email marketing, and e-commerce platform kind of all in one. And I just love a lot of the visual elements to it. It's got a visual canvas, allows you to drag and drop. It allows you to do a lot more than just automate emails. It can automatically trigger. We actually have a tool integrated with it called Thankster that sends automated handwritten letters out. So whenever somebody engages, with us, they get a series. They can get emails. They can get automated text messages. Actually, when someone signs up with this and purchases our VA virtual assistant services, they get an automatic voicemail drop. That's a voicemail from me personally welcoming them. It can automate text messages. It'll even integrate with platforms like send out cards that'll actually send like a gift basket. So if you really want to dial in, and I'm going to work on a whole webinar around this, I'll share with all of you, because how do you develop the nurture sequence, right? The automatic nurture wheel so that you're touching people at different categories depending on where they are in the process. So I love Infusionsoft. Some other tools we integrate as part of that I mentioned is Thankster.com that does automated handwritten letters. Highly recommend Calendly. If you're not using I'm sure probably in your business you're using some kind of an automatic booking platform, but that makes all the difference in the world. When you make it easy for someone to book a call with you to learn about your service or to book an inspection or what have you, Calendly, and then doing videos as well. So using a tool like Vidyard or Screencast-O-Matic or Loom. It's a great way to add to your sales process. If you go to our site, like on outsourceaccess.com, and you click on Get a Virtual Assistant, you scroll down, you'll see a video there of me explaining our whole process and answering all the questions right there. So when someone's in the decision-making process, even for like home inspection, before they get on the phone, there's a chance you can make an impression in a video and kind of answer all their questions. So you can do that in a live video. You'll see that I did there. And I'll share a kit that you can get with a wireless mic, a tripod, and your cell phone to make an incredible video. Or use a tool like Screencast-O-Matic that allows you to have your webcam up and kind of go through a set of slides on the screen. So we use all of those, that blend of things in our process. If you want to see an example of our whole nurture sequence where that's concerned, using Infusionsoft and that whole set of triggers, if you go to outsourceaccess.com/help, you'll see there we create a lead magnet. As soon as COVID-19 hit, we put together a guide that's a whole thing about how to survive through COVID-19. So people put their email address in, and there's a very intentional 20-part nurture sequence they go through that's all fed out of Infusionsoft. You can kind of see how we've architected it with building authority, case studies, and FAQ answers, but there's call to action at the bottom of every single one of those emails. Next question for Corey Van Wyck. Question is, how have you been able to overcome or prevent overthinking so you can get more done each day? Business description and background. I'm in a new position with a lot of responsibility. My boss just gives me tasks and says, get it done. but doesn't give me direction. So I know I overthink it, and this causes me to be less productive than I want. How can I overcome that? Get more clarity from my boss, better communication with updates. Thanks. Elevator pitch, we help leaders of any kind get their message across in a more personal and impactful way through teaching the art and science of communication. So, a bit of irony there. Kind of the nature of the business that you're in. A lot of times it's the case the cobbler's shoes are a mess, right? Sometimes. Um, so, in your current situation, as you alluded to, certainly highly recommend that you have a good clarity conversation, with your boss. I mean, leadership is clarity. There's a great leader in the religious world. I'm actually involved in a church called Buckhead Church that we go to, and regardless of where you are on the religious front, named Andy Stanley, and just an absolutely amazing speaker. That regardless of where you are, from a faith standpoint, you can take a ton away from his presentations. And I was just watching a series he did on leadership, and he said, particularly during uncertain times that we're in right now, when you cannot provide certainty, provide clarity. And so I would put the onus back on leaders and your boss, they're included, that you got to have clarity to be clear about what the expectations are. A lot of entrepreneurs we find, and a lot of clients that we work with, it's very frustrating sometimes, and we're very quick to not take on clients that aren't willing to be clear and share processes. Because we've got super smart people that work for us, but if you got people that are just always scattered and got a million things going on, and they just want to throw you a couple little small breadcrumbs and you figure out how to make the whole cake, it can be challenging. Now, right, if they've given you a lot of the right stuff, and you're an individual that has to take tons of questions and can't do a little bit of deductive reasoning, then that's another challenge. But if you're not getting at least the baseline clarity that you need for the direction, I would definitely encourage having that conversation to make sure that you're getting that. As far as the overthinking element, I'm not sure what aspect you're talking about. If it's overthinking what to do or how to prioritize, but if it's in that category, I go back to the old Stephen Covey, 4 quadrants. What's urgent and important, what's urgent and not important. And go to that quadrant, and maybe decide and have a conversation with your boss of helping categorize those things. Hey, which of these fall into these buckets? Is this something that's urgent and important? Those are the things that need to be done right now. Or is this non-urgent, not important? Or is it important but not urgent? That maybe is one of those things that kind of falls a little bit longer in the process. But if you look that up, the Stephen Covey kind of matrix of urgent and important, you'll find it. And that could be a good framework you could have the conversation. If your boss is throwing stuff, and I know I'm guilty of this myself sometimes, is you got some things and this is a huge priority, then all of a sudden the next day they got this, and that should jump in front of the next thing that's top priority, and it leaves you kind of frustrated of which things are to focus on. So maybe you could use that framework. Something else I'll share that may be helpful for you that I've started doing, because I've tried a lot of different ways of how to organize my week, how to organize tasks, what to focus on, how to prioritize. And what I started doing is looking at all my tasks, and I would just audit myself for a couple of weeks. Just everything that I'm doing, write it all down, every little nitpicking thing, right? And then after I looked at that whole list of things, start identifying what are categories that things are falling into, and try and create as many kind of macro categories that I could. And I found that most all those things fell into, a handful of categories, primarily 4, key categories. So what I started doing on my week is I would then block out from 8 a.m. to noon to give me focused, uninterrupted time on each of those categories. So I would keep track of all that list. And when I would start Monday, the only things that fall in for me, I'm the president of this entrepreneur organization. That's all I do from 8 a.m. to 12 on Mondays is nothing but focus on things for that. Then on Tuesdays, I do nothing but management and legal and HR related activities. Thursday from 8 to 12, I do nothing but sales and marketing activities. And on the 4th day, I do nothing but personal and catch up, which a lot of times we don't take care of that stuff, personal finances or errands or things we need to do. And then I leave the back half of the day to be open to kind of, catch up on things that maybe I didn't get caught up on. And I leave that open for phone calls and so forth. But I found that to be a really good way of kind of organizing structure and time and task. Next question is Trish Murphy. What sources would you use if you had limited money but wanted to improve your branding and give your homepage a fresh look, background of the business? I sell false eyelashes online on my website, eyelashesunlimited.com. I've used 99 Designs in the past and have been reasonably satisfied with their services. I'd like to give my homepage a fresh look, but it's not the right time for me financially to hire a fancy company. Are there any talented but very affordable designers that you would recommend, or other resources besides 99 Designs I might check out? Elevator pitch: I sell false eyelashes to makeup artists, beauty supply stores, salons, and the end consumer. So obviously this is kind of right down, a lot of what we do, every day in the outsourcing world, and our VAs are kind of doing, with clients. And so, there's tons of amazing talent out there. 99 Designs, I'd never actually used 99 Designs. I've known about it forever. A lot of people recommended it. I found it to be a little too expensive personally on it, because I've been able to find kind of the path that I'm looking for on Fiverr and Upwork and others. But something I'll share as far as a process, at least, and maybe this is something that you've done, that I like to do to get a benchmark of what are designs and brands that are out there, is what are all my competitors doing? When you talk about a fresh, look, I'm assuming that's based on what you've seen some of your competitors doing and things you'd like to be more similar to. So one of the things, you can actually post this on Upwork and Fiverr, is have somebody do a data scrape and get a list for you and put into, a spreadsheet the website address of every single false eyelash company. Just give them a set of keywords and say, look, I want you to go to Google and I want you to type in, false eyelashes online, fake eyelashes online, whatever the set of keywords are. Give them a set of, 8 to 10 keywords, tell them to search, and then tell them you want them to take and put those websites in a spreadsheet for you, right? Or a Google Doc spreadsheet. And that way they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So then all you've got to do is just go and click on each one of them and be able to look and see for design references. So I do that all the time when we're looking to brand into a new market, or I'm looking to explore something. I always have somebody do a data scrape, and for, a couple cents a record, they'll do that for you. Also, if you wanted them to, they could actually, if you were to give them a link to a Google spreadsheet, a Google slide, is ask them to do screenshots of the home pages of every single one of them. So not only give you all the links, but go ahead and do screenshots of all the home pages and put them into that Google slide sheet. So that way, this is how I use a lot of outsourcing in VA work, is to do a lot of the heavy lifting, anything administrative or research-wise. So then I can do what I'm best at, which is assess, evaluate. Once I have the information in my hands, then kind of make a design decision on it. So that's just a additional strategy maybe in going towards this process from is getting design references, and maybe not just false eyelashes, but anything in the beauty space, just to give you some ideas. And a lot of times when I go through that process, I'll end up going through it, or my team does a lot of it now. But there may be something I like about one site, like the way their navigation menu, you kind of do a drop down, you love the way it hovered over, or maybe like the way that a site had screen scrolling images. So there may be different components of it. So whenever you go to post that job on Upwork or Fiverr, or if you end up doing 99 Designs, now you can do a screencast recording using a tool I mentioned before, like Screencast-O-Matic or Loom.com. Do that recording and just walk through it and say, hey, here's my current site. This is what I don't like. I just want to walk through these 8 to 10 sites. I like this. I like this about this one. I like this about this one. I like this about this one. And then when you post that job, post a link to that screencast recording saying, watch a video of you narrating what you want. And then also, post links to the actual screenshot, Google slide sheet or what have you. And that way, you're getting all the information so that they can give you a much more accurate design concept in alignment with what your goals are. So those are just a couple of things to keep in mind as you're kind of going down that path. And cost-wise, you've seen with 99 Designs. You can certainly get even lower cost options. We have a client the other day that, got a whole website built from scratch, start to finish, out the door in 30 days for $600. And I've had people do redesigns on the front ends for, a couple $100. One other one I'd recommend, and you mentioned branding as well, is another thing I like to do. Use a tool called 48hourlogo.com. So actually, I have a webinar. I kind of walked through this whole process that we did. But when I was creating the brand for Outsource Access, I wasn't sure what I wanted the logo to be. I had a general idea. So I came up with the name Outsource Access. And initially I thought I wanted to be like maybe a key in the image and a globe, like access to global talent or something. And so this happens every time. So I go and post it on 48hourlogo.com, and it costs like $99. And you hold a global contest with people from all over the world with different backgrounds, different cultures across the board, which is how you get really great design insights, actually. So I'll post it. You pay like $30 for a premium. and you hold a contest for 7 days. And so I posted a screencast recording, kind of sharing my thoughts on it. And over the next couple of days, I think we got over 300 designs back. And people came back with designs, and I've done this probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 times with different logos and brand ideas. And what people come back with from different backgrounds and cultures all over the world is completely different than what I thought I wanted, and ended up finding something that I never even would have thought about myself. So it's crowdsourcing global talent and creative insights that maybe you never would have done before. So highly recommend that approach to crowdsource the designs. And I'll do that a lot of times just to get ideas that I never had before. All right, jump into the next question here. And before that, just 2 books I'll recommend just around the branding and the marketing side, just some cool creative growth hacks and so forth. As a lot of you heard about Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, but if you haven't read his book, .com Secrets and Expert Secrets, highly recommend both of those for anybody that's kind of going down the messaging and branding kind of restructure. Next question is from Christopher Joseph. Question is, relationship question. How do I balance school and working on developing my business and having a relationship? Business background, I'm in school full-time and working on starting my business and wondering what I can do to have a relationship at the same time. Should I stop the relationship and focus on me, or is there a way to do it all? So many an entrepreneur has asked this question, being a 20-year entrepreneur and one that's married now for going on 6 years. Got 2 kids, got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. Certainly know how tough it can be to balance. And so, Chris, I'm not sure how old you are in terms of where you are in your cycle. I know for me, my 20s was definitely the business and my entrepreneurial path was kind of more of my priority at that time. If I'd met the right person right at that time, I'm sure I would have started the marriage path sooner. But it can be difficult, and goal setting and organizing, and some of the answers I provided earlier about creating your calendar and structuring and happening to your day and your week versus your week happening to you, and trying to organize all the things that you do, create buckets, block off time in your calendar to be purely focused on those initiatives. Some of the first things I would share before you start thinking about, the relationship or not, is can you create more structure and organization to how you attack life in your business in a way that can create more capacity, for a relationship that maybe you don't have right now. For me as well, waking up early morning. I mean, I'm an early riser. I wasn't in my 20s. All my business have been international, so I had to deal with a lot of international suppliers and stuff in my 20s, so I naturally stayed up late because I had to deal with Singapore and Asia and all kinds of different, Singapore's in Asia, but a lot of suppliers. But my early 30s, I started getting more. I loved early mornings, and that just changed the game for me. Getting up at 5:30 in the morning, I'm crisp, I'm clear, and I can get at 3x speed of what I'm doing in the afternoon a lot of times. So early mornings have been key. Blocking your calendar, organizing your key activities, and just, I can't say enough about blocking time for specific categories of activities, because that's the biggest thing of failure, is the multitasking, where so many of us start on one thing and another thing pops in your head. You have to spin down from that and spin up on something else, and then something else pops up and spin out. So on my computer, and literally I have a screen up, it's my dashboard and my punch list. So anytime something pops in my head, I can't stop those things from happening. When I'm focused on 4 hours of a certain category of work, something pops in my head, I've got to get it out. I got to release it. So I have that document up so I can just drop it in, and then I kind of have a little drop down and put what category it's in. So whenever I get to that category during the week, and when I'm working on that and that block, I just sort the list by that category and focus on it. So that reduces my anxiety that I'm going to forget about that thing. So I drop it, and then can kind of focus and block my time, kind of accordingly. And as I mentioned, using 4 disciplines of execution or some kind of goal development execution plan so that you just have more structure and organization, to your work. A couple other tips I'd share in dealing with a relationship and being an entrepreneur. One of my good buddies is a fellow entrepreneur of mine, and we're in a forum together. He's a chiropractor, really successful. Got 7, actually going on 8 or 9 locations now. And he has this conversation with his wife when he calls expansion cycles, right? And they just sit down and are on the same page and say, look, honey, this is kind of, and I found in relationships a lot of times, if they can know what time frame you're working in and when there's going to be a beginning and an end to it, it's a little bit more palatable. It's just like if any of you played sports, I remember in football when all of a sudden, the coach is like, just go run back and forth 100 yards and I'll just tell you when we're going to stop. And when I had no idea when it was going to stop, right, it was really hard to stay focused and committed sometimes. But if you have a conversation with a relationship and say, look, for the next 30 days, I've got to double down, right? We're going to save Tuesdays and Thursdays to be date nights for us, but otherwise, like, I've got to commit. But on the other side of that, we're going to have this little, long weekend vacation. So I found in spouse relationships throughout my life that if you can, um, uh, well, only one spouse relationship, only one marriage, but as far as any other kind of girlfriends in the past as well, is just have a communication. And if they know that, hey, this is what it's going to be like for this period of time, but give that release valve of something that you're going to do on the other side, it makes a big difference. The other thing too, and you can do this even if you're not married, but particularly when you're married, is my wife and I try and have what we call like Sunday meetings, an agenda driven. It's crazy. We do this in business. We have standard weekly meetings all the time so that we are keeping up on things and things don't fall through the cracks. But in relationships and families, we don't. So my wife and I started doing these, and we have weekly meetings, agenda driven. We start off by just sharing a positive thing each person had, experience with the other for the week. Share, where do I need some help in the coming week? We talk about financial stuff in a category. We talk about travel planning in a category. So each of us know that, if we forget to mention or keep up with all that stuff during the week, we know Sundays, usually have a beverage or two. And some friends of mine, Matt and Maria Granados, are big fans of this, and we've kind of learned a lot from their approach as well. And we can have those meetings and conversations. And that just for both, you feel like it's a chance to connect, get up to speed, support one another, and creates more capacity for the business as well. So highly recommend having that cadence with a relationship as well. All right, I think last question is from Gabor Rats. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Question is there a way I can ask for feedback and actually get some honest responses from our past subscribers about why they didn't renew their subscription? Business background. Our company's main product is an annual magazine subscription. Due to technical and psychological limitations, auto-recurring subscriptions aren't coming in our country yet. So when our subscribers expire, we rely on email and mail to convince them to renew. Normally, this works quite effectively. Our benchmark for renewals is 70% in any given month. However, this August was beyond terrible, with only 32% of expiring subscribers choosing to renew. I can't think of any logical reasons for this outlier result, so I'm looking for help on what questions I would ask to find out the real reason, as well as how I would introduce why we're reaching out. I can either email these subscribers or I can call them on the phone. Well, first, I'm sorry to hear kind of seeing that decline. I mean, during these times we're in, people are seeing a lot of unique exceptions to the rule that they haven't experienced before. I'm a big on surveys and asking for feedback in any situation with clients, whether things are going well or if things went bad, just to ask for transparency, right at the beginning. So a couple things I could share. One thing is creating psychological safety for your customers to want to share. This is something that Google actually does with their teams, and they found it to be one of the most critical successes for managers and organizations is when people feel like they're in a safe place to share feedback without recourse. They're much more open to doing so. So I'm not sure what the phrasing or language is in your surveys or your feedback to kind of get clarity. But I would just go above and beyond and be extra overt on, look, we're completely fine with, we understand that this isn't a fit for everyone, but just to help us in building our business and improving, could you let us know or give us feedback? So one is just, and maybe you're doing this already, is just being overtly, hey, it's okay, it's fine, we'd just like to get feedback. The second thing I find a lot of times that people won't answer is just they make it too difficult, right? They make it too long. I know I was on a call with Bank of America the other day, and it's like, at the end of this call, if you don't mind taking a survey, press pound, right? And so occasionally I'll do that because I want to give feedback, because I want to practice. I mean, if I was an owner, I'd want it as well. And they just start, and it goes on and on and on and on. And I end up just opting out of the whole process because, at some point, I'm not going to give you any more of my time to give you feedback. So I would just encourage making it super, super simple. If you're doing a linker survey, just make it a simple button that they can check. Maybe it's 2 simple questions, and they can just check which bucket that it falls into. You didn't describe and which one of these applies. Always have your other box, right, where people can freeform write, because you will get that 10% of people who will write a novel and tell you all the reasons why, and those people are great because you can learn a lot from that. So always have that there for people that want to write, but otherwise just make it super simple to kind of check a box for them to kind of share an answer. And that's where you may find some of the reasons that fall outside of your typical reason for unsubscribing. One other thing I'd recommend, and I did a similar thing with this in my last company. We had a teeth whitening business. We manufacture and distribute teeth whitening products all over the world to the beauty industry, the dental industry, and even in my current company as well. And I always recommend is try and create an insider circle group. Maybe proactively with subscribers that you have that have engaged is offered, hey, we're creating an insider circle. We'd love for you to kind of be a part of that, to give us feedback and give them a certain benefits as part of it. But hold a monthly Zoom call for 30 minutes, and just as an opportunity for them to feel like they're contributing and being a part of building your business. And a lot of times those ambassadors can be a great vehicle for getting expertise and getting insight. And maybe do the same thing with some of those that have subscribed, is offer that. Cash, if you're really, really trying to get examples and you're seeing this huge deal, sometimes just raw cash can be like, hey, we're getting a lot of subscribers, be completely transparent. We never had this problem before. All of a sudden we lost a bunch, and we just, hopefully you can relate as an entrepreneur during these tough times. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Would be so appreciative and even willing to give you X straight cash if we could just have a call. And all I want to do, 100% promise, is just understand why you unsubscribe and just be overt, about that. Because it can be challenging sometimes, for sure. If you are going to do call outreaches and ask them to book a call, I would highly recommend you use a tool to make it easy for them to book a call with you, like using Calendly or one of the automatic booking tools. Because a lot of times people don't mind, but when you make it difficult for them to have to reply back to you and tell you what times and back and forth, it's just a mess. So just make it super simple for them to click a link and book and have a call with you if you want to get feedback. So that wraps up our last question there. So thanks again so much for the opportunity. Hopefully this was helpful in sharing some experiences and feedback in the process. If ever want to learn more about us and kind of what we do, and I got tons of free content, educational supplies or resources out there, you go to outsourceaccess.com. And if you ever want to see some examples of some of the videos, like I said, you go to outsourceaccess.com/help. You can download our survival guide during COVID-19 and kind of see the architecture of our nurture sequence there. If you go to our website or click on Get a Virtual Assistant, you'll see that video there where I kind of explain our whole process and how we integrate some of these technology tools to kind of see it in action. I'd be happy to share with you, and I'll drop a link into the chat here after the video's live on a page we created that has a link to all the different resources that we put together. So thanks again for the opportunity. Again, Brad Stevens, CEO Outsource Access. Look forward to our session next month. Take care.